Good morning, good morning. How are you? Oh my goodness. Hello. Good morning. All right, let's try that again. Good morning. It's exciting to be here and somebody paying to be here. I'm sure they didn't pay you enough because that energy, Jordan. Come on. Let's go one more time. Good morning. All right, that's good. That's great. Well, we've got a lot happening today. We've got a ton of speakers. The good news is that you don't need to hear from me today. You're not going to. We've got some replacements. So yeah, Jason's excited about that. But I'm excited because we've got a great, I guess we'll call it a bevy of speakers. So it'll be fun to hear from some new voices. So, and some you've heard from before, but it'll be good. So let's get started. Let's get to the first line here. What do we have? All right, save the date. We're going to save the dates. Call night, which is actually today. So how many have been to a call night prospecting night? Yeah, 4. Okay, a good number of you. Well, the good news, we're back to doing that. So Ruby and Nick are going to be hosting that today from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on the 3rd floor in the prospecting pit. So be there, Nick Manville says, or be square.
Or be square. No, I don't say that. You say that. Because I don't even know what that means.
Nick, come on. The secret is we all say you're square. Come on. No, we don't say that. How could you be square with that bald head? I'm partial when I'm very. All right, so we'll be there. It's a great opportunity to set appointments. I was talking, we were talking, and how many appointments did you set today? 4 appointments today. Or yesterday. Yeah, 4 appointments yesterday. And how many appointments do we need to set on average every single day? Just 1. So use this as an opportunity to get all of your appointments in for the week. So save the date today, 4 6 p.m. 3rd floor prospect. All right, next. The annual charity golf tournament. We've got a beautiful assistant to stand up here and talk about that. So if you could give Kimberly Curnow a round of applause.
So it's this time of year, it's crazy to think that we've done this for 10 years, but of course we have 2020. So 9 executed, hopefully successful golf tournaments. So this will be June 20th. We do still have a couple openings for single players. You may say, but I'm not a golfer, but I just want to go have fun. There's room for you. We'd love to have you. So call me or the front desk. Maybe is that the best way to call the front desk and they can send to you. Great. And then we will be having a silent auction. This is where everyone who's not going to be golfing or going to the golf tournament, this is an opportunity for you to get involved in the charity. We are supporting Good Deed Revolution, and they are a charity event or a charity that supports mental health and suicide prevention. And they do wonderful, great things. So we are looking for everybody to share a link. They're going to have a link that will be sent out. That will be for a silent auction. Use it, share it, put it on your Facebook, put it on social media, and claim it as your own. Say, we are part of a charity. We are raising funds for it, blah, blah, blah. And so a great cause. So this is an invitation to please participate that way and get involved because we are all so. And that's it. Thank you.
Cool. She mentioned that that's 9 annual golf tournaments. There's a ton of work that's involved in that, and we're very grateful that she and the group that she gathers every year does what they do, because we've gathered how many dollars over the course of nearly a decade? I mean, it's a ton, right? I mean, 50, 60, $70,000, a lot of money. Could go towards great causes for philanthropic endeavors in our local community. So thank you for your support. Be there this year, even if you don't golf. Look, I don't golf, don't like it. Done 1.5 rounds. Did it with George. It wasn't very fun. And I don't intend to do it again, but I show up and I drive a golf cart, Tana, which is really cool. So I get to speed on the golf course and I don't get tickets, which is great. All right, so let's go. Let's see the pool party. Aaron Pierce, you get excited about this. You can break out the Speedo. No, Speedos are not an option. You cannot come to the pool party with the Speedo. You leave that at home, but please come. Pool party Saturday, June 24th at the Linden Aquatic Center. So we've got still space for that. So if you want to sign up, then sign up. And who would you sign up through? Nick Manville, right here. Nick, stand up so they can see your amazing bald head. Yeah. He's being a typical bald guy. He's going to compensate with the beard. Why did we do that? I don't get it. Okay. Next save the date. Let's celebrate. Join us for our open house. Here's the good news. We finally got all the work done on the first floor. Mackenzie Cooley headed that out. She did an amazing job. We've got great space. Your leadership is now on the first floor of the Union Park building. We're there also with Inspiro, the mortgage company. So we work side by side with those professionals. We're going to have an open house on June 29th. So we'd like to have you come there, see the new space, and interact with your leadership team. And just, I'm assuming we're going to have some good food and some good fun and some good friends. Yes? All right, great.
What time?
What time? Formal invitation to come. Here you go, kind of a VIP situation. All right. All right, the next summit is August 8th, which means we will not be having a summit in July, which is normal. We normally don't do that because you folks are going to be taking family vacations and spending time with your family and friends, hopefully going to one of those amazing vacations that you've set for the year. So August 8th, 2023 at this location, that will be our next summit. Next. All right, the Summer Bash. I don't remember how many years we've done this, but this thing's been going on for probably a decade. Summer Bash at the Cowabunga Bay in Draper, Tuesday, August 1st. We still have space there, so plenty of opportunity for you to sign up. Sign up with whom on that one? With Brittany. Okay, Brittany, would you stand up so they can see? So Brittany is our director of marketing. If you want to sign up for that, you can sign up with her today, but you can also receive a notice that many will be coming out, correct? Yeah. Okay, great. All right, next. Oh yeah, the Spartan race. So in the Bahamas, August 26th and 27th, there's going to be a team of Everest agents. We've got a team that set up. Parker and Fred have set that up. Gentlemen, raise your hands high. Stand up so they can see you. Give them a round of applause. These never done a Spartan race, but they signed up, and I found out this morning through a mole, told me that they said they were going to kick my ass. So that's what he said. I'm just repeating what he said. So well, seriously, I would encourage you to sign up. It's going to be fun. The race is only a 5K. It's a little over 3 miles. And there's not a ton of running. It's mostly obstacles. And once you do that, it only takes a couple of hours at most. And once you do that, then you have the remaining days there to be in paradise to absolutely have a great time on white and sandy beaches. How many of you have ever been to the Bahamas? All right. So every one of you should be signing up for this thing. And we're going to do this as a team. So it's not like it's a race, that it's do or die. And, you are trying to beat your teammates. It's the teammates doing it together. So it's going to be a great opportunity. I really encourage you to do it. All right, next. Summit. All right, Hearts and Hands for Humanity. If you remember, how many of you attended the summit that we did a few weeks ago, the Everest Coaching Summit? Raise your hands. If you remember, we had Amber Milton come in and she talked about the charitable organization that she's part of, which is this one, Hearts and Hands. You can still donate. These are the ways to do it. The QR codes are here, or you can also reach out to Amber Milton, or you can also reach out to Brittany, and she can help in that process as well. But it's one of the things that we talk about. You want to increase your sense of self-confidence and certainty. One of the greatest things you can do is be grateful and contribute to other people. When we help others, of course, how do we feel about ourselves? Better. So this is an opportunity to not only feel better about yourself, but also to help people who are in need. All right, next. Reminder, our Orem office is open for use. So it's located at 504 West, 800 North. You don't have to be an agent in Orem. If you're down in that area doing business, you need an office, you can use it. It's there for you. Any Everest agent can use that space. The same is true up in Layton. If you're doing business up in that direction and you need a conference room to meet with clients, of course, that is there for you. So keep that in mind. Next. Don't forget your transaction coordinators are here to help. How many of you are drowning in transactions? How many of you would like to drown in transactions? Raise your hands high. Well, the reason you're not drowning in transactions is because when you get a transaction, you decide that you're going to do the admin work instead of prospecting. If that's true, say I. It's true. So we have a great team of professionals, Abigail and Marissa, who will help you with the detail of the contracts and making certain that you stay on track and meet the deadlines, but also allow you to leverage their abilities so that you're actually doing your job, which is to go out every day and what? Prospect and say, how many appointments a day? Just one, that's all. It's kind of like Blue Diamond Almonds. It's one day, that's all we ask. Maybe that was enough. All right, so next, you can climb Mount Everest, but you can't live there. What is this? Your Century 20 agent can move you everywhere. Help me with this. What is this? Relocation? Where is that? Oh, there it is, down the bottom, relocation. Yes, sorry, Heather. It says the fine print. Did you want to come up? Is there anything you want to say? You want me to say it for you? No. Okay. Century 21 Everest. You can climb Mount Everest, and you can't live there. Your Century 21 Everest agent can move you everywhere else. Relocation referrals. So yes, how many of you know what we're talking about there? Because I don't. Please tell me you do, so that I don't have to explain this. So referrals, if you have an outbound referral, you've got somebody who says, hey, I'm moving to Tennessee. You don't know an agent in Tennessee. You don't want to go through the process of trying to figure that out and vet an agent. This lady and her team, Debbie, stand up. These people, these beautiful ladies can help in that process of finding that agent because they have a network around the country of great agents who can help you get that transaction closed. So I'm going to walk to Heather. No, here, let me do this. Here you go. Heather Barker, ladies and gentlemen.
We're working with marketing, come up with a series of this type of messaging. And there are going to be social media posts that you can just send out to your sphere. So let them know you can help them everywhere. So you're not that secret agent, right? So you're getting that message out to your sphere. So that's what this is. This is the first in the series that's going to come out. Talking about where you can help people, which is everywhere, but top of Mount Everest, right? Okay, that's it.
So if you've not done this before, I did it this year. I gave Heather a referral. She took care of it. She found the agent, set it up. And a couple of months later, she sent me a big check for like $3,000. And all I did was hand her the name of the individual. So is that not a cool program? Say yes. So take advantage of it. You hear that somebody's moving out of your market where you don't work. It's still an opportunity for you to earn a great commission check. So next, stay in the loop. Sign up for Century 21 Everest text star to that number there. Give us a message. Here's another thing. The hot tip there is save the short code as a contact. So put in there the name of the information. So you can say important Everest message. When that comes up, you don't dismiss it as spam. The other thing that I would say is this. So Brittany mentioned to me that Brittany, stand up, and Tanner, stand up. Your marketing team, give them a round of applause. This team is setting up some great marketing material for you, templates and things that you can use that are both seasonal as well as holiday specific, and just generally speaking, where you can add value and post things on your social media or send out through email. You're going to be sending that information through this text right here. So make sure if you're not signed up for this, you go ahead and take a seat. Thank you. Give them a round of applause. If you're not set up for that, make sure that you sign up for that right now. So those of you, how many of you are not signed up and don't receive texts on a daily basis for the morning descent and the other announcements that come through the daily message? How many of you are not getting that? Raise your hands. If you got one, okay, Leah, do it right now. Set it up. Make sure you do it. All right, next. Welcome. Well, he just stood up. Let's have him stand up again. Mr. Tanner Gale. I hate to do this, but I guess you're Tanner Gatter, aren't you?
That's right.
Yeah. I don't think he's ever been called that, but I guess right out of the gate, somebody, who was it who did that to you?
Oh, that's
It's been going on since you were a kid.
Oh, yeah.
So are you okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, Tanner Gatter, round of applause. We're happy that he's with us here because Brittany has been doing a yeoman's job. The fact is she's needed help and she's got great help in what he's doing. Is he doing a great job? He is doing a great job. I know that he is, because I've heard a lot of positive feedback from agents who've been impacted by what you two are doing as a team now. So thank you. And welcome aboard, Tanner. Yeah. All right, welcome, Ella Miguez. So she's our new under contractor coordinator. Where is Ella? Stand up, Ella. Oh, there you are, Ella. Yes. You are on the left. So are you going to this? Welcome aboard. She just joined us. So Ella is going to be trained by Sharon to be the under contract coordinator. She's going to be located in the Layton office, and she's going to be there to also help with some administrative work and just helping with the agents and operating that office up there in Layton. So we're excited about Ella being there and doing that and help take some workload off of Sharon so she can do some more and exciting things for us as well. So you're not going anywhere, right? Okay, good. Resoundingly now, right? Okay, good. She's here to say, give them both a round of applause. And next, congratulations, Marissa, Quintana, is it Quintana or Quintana? Quintana, thank you, thank you. She is now with us for 6 years, so please, Marissa, stand up so they can acknowledge the people around the block. How many of you had the opportunity to work with Marissa? Look at this, look at the group that you've impacted. Thank you so much for being with us and the work that you're doing. So we're very grateful for you. Okay, great. All right, who do we have next? Okay, we're to the speakers. There we go. So that's why you're really here. You're not here for these announcements, or at least to see my opening mug. You're here to be inspired and motivated. Yes? Yeah. So we have a great group of speakers here this morning. Some you have not heard from this morning before. So I'm excited that this morning we start with a speaker you've not heard from before. He's been with an affiliated company, North Star Title, but has never spoken in this capacity in front of you in this environment, in the summit. So without further ado, I want to welcome Nick Parkway next stand up. We call him North Star Nick, so without any delay, Mr. North Star Nick.
Good afternoon, everybody. How's lunch?
Good afternoon.
All right. So North Star Nick here with North Star Title. You walk by our office every day when you come into the building in Uni Park. So I am the escrow officer that's there working on your files every single day. And one of the things I want to talk about, I try and bring a nugget of information for you guys to give you some things to be looking out for. Before I start though, I have a movie that I kind of want to tie in here. So how many of you seen Ocean's 11? Okay, it's one of my favorite movies, right? They go into a lot of detail about the heist that they're going to do to rob 3 casinos, right? And there's a fight that night, and they go into all this detail about how they're going to rob this casino. A lot of planning goes into it. Just that, there we go. A lot of planning goes into it, right? They have 11 people that they get from all these different places. They go through all this planning, trying to figure everything out how to rob this casino. Okay, at the end of the movie, they're successful with it, right? They rob, I think it's 30 million, I think is what they robbed that night. It's some big number, right? They split it 11 ways. They're successful with it though, right? So I want you to keep that movie in mind when I'm talking about this next slide here. So we're going to talk about wire fraud. So anytime you've done work with a title company, you've probably seen in the bottom of their signature line, something talks about verifying wire instructions. So wire fraud is real, and it's kind of a scary thing, right? Wire fraud, I don't want you to diminish that though, because wire fraud is very real, okay? There are people like the Ocean's 11 group that are working behind the scenes trying to steal money on every single transaction. Okay, they are reading every single email, trying to hack into emails. They're trying to make it look like they are representing you or the people that are involved in the transaction for the purchase. Now, how many of you have represented a buyer? Okay, how many of you have had conversations with that buyer about wire fraud? How many of you continue to have conversations about wire fraud? Okay, perfect. So the one thing I want to impress upon everybody here, if you don't think of anything else with North Star Nick, I want you to think of Nick, North Star Nick, and protecting your buyers from wire fraud. Every time that they're supposed to spend in money for a transaction on a purchase, they need to call and verify those instructions before they send those funds in. We're talking $500,000 some point. Sometimes we're talking about $10,000. It may not be a whole lot, but every single time. And don't trust an email. Don't trust an email. Don't trust wire instructions that they already received. If you have a client that's working with you, give them your title company's phone number to call. Because if they're calling numbers off of wiring instructions they received, it could be a bogus phone number. Okay, or tell them to Google the phone number and have them call the office. Okay, verify that the email that they're talking with, that they're having conversations, more conversation and more communication is better than none at all. Okay, I'd much rather have someone and take phone calls all day on people sending wire instructions than have wire fraud and funds sent off to an offshore account that we're never going to refund those, recover those funds back again. So take those notes down. Always remember to call a verified source and verify those wire instructions. It's never happened to me, but I don't ever want it to happen again. I don't want it to happen to any of you. Okay, it's a very important thing. So if you've ever learned anything from me today, from anything I've share with you is to verify those wire instructions, okay? Always, and again with wire fraud too, they can make it look like they're having a conversation with someone. And they can get into the emails and they can look at everything and see exactly, almost to the penny, exactly what dollar needs to be sent in, okay? So they need to be making sure that you are talking with the right person there. And we verify those as well. I call people, I go over it. What I'd love to do in every closing, and I realize this isn't something that you can do every single time, but I would actually love to physically hand them wire instructions rather than emailing to them. But I realize there's situations where we can't, so in those situations, I usually try and call them beforehand, or you can call them and say, this guy is gonna be calling you, give them information, give them more of a heads up, okay? Because that can be really helpful. Other than that, we always love to have you come in, say hi in our office, ask us any questions you've got. We're always on the first floor now that Century 21 shared the same floor with us. It's very busy now. We're getting a lot of, I mean, it's always been busy, but now that we're on the same floor, we're going back and forth between doors and seeing everybody. It's awesome. It's like a episode of Mad Men or something. It's really cool. So anyway, North Star Nick, and excited to be working with you guys, and let us know if we can ever help you out with anything. Thank you so much. And I think Cynthia is up next. Cynthia, you can spare the rock.
Oh, I know, it's right. Okay, hi. Hi guys, I'm Cynthia with Inspiro. Most people know me as an underwriter, but the end of last year, I decided to go back into being a loan officer. So I am here to talk a little bit about a program that doesn't get enough attention. Most of us know FHA, conventional, VA, but what we don't talk about is a program, sorry, there you go. A 1% down conventional loan. And what it does is it allows our clients the opportunity for a grant for 2% down paid by a lender. So that being said, sorry, it allows our clients with lower income and less down payment to be able to afford a home. Sorry, I can't see these. Okay, so some of the parameters is a 620 credit score, 90% loan to value. Obviously it's going to be a conventional loan amount, conforming loan because it's lower income. And then also a single family or a condo. So no 2 to 4 units, duplexes, anything that would have like some sort of rental income included. Very next one. Okay, so as far as the qualifying goes for our clients, it's 80% of the area median income. So what that is Salt Lake, Tooele, Davis, Weber, Utah, just for the sake of surrounding counties. You can see that this income for our clients can't exceed this dollar amount right there. So when we're looking at our first-time home buyers, lower income, underserved areas, this is the amount of income that we're looking at. So if you have questions, we're at the same office now as Century 21 on the first floor. So come and visit us. There's me, there's Dylan, Pedro, and Adam. So come and visit us. Thank you. Thank you for speaking.
Thanks, Cynthia. So you had title, then you had Inspiro or mortgages, and now you get compliance. We're totally excited, aren't we, George? About to get it. George said, told Russ, he said, I want you to speak at Summit and give a compliance tip. And the first thing he did is, I'm going to Disneyland. He was supposed to do this, then go to Disneyland, but he didn't. So today that 1 will save you money and 2 will eliminate some confusion. Now it's going to be kind of simple. However, we bring up this because it happens all the time. And that's why I want to bring it up, because we're setting ourselves up to lose money if we do this. So okay, so everybody should be familiar with this section. Some of you like to skip over it when you talk to your clients because you don't want to talk about what you're going to make. However, there's a section in here I want to bring to your attention here. In yellow, seller agrees to pay the company a brokerage fee in the amount of 6% plus $295 of the acquisition price of the property, the brokerage fee. 5 or 6 years ago, we used to call this, does anyone remember what we used to call this 5 or 6 years ago? Transaction fee, admin fee, okay? Well, the state of Utah came down on that and said, no, you cannot charge extra commission. So it is now called a brokerage fee, which is the whole thing. Go to the next slide. This is what I'm getting on some of your requests on your addendums. It's saying brokerage fee to be 0, brokerage fee to be paid by the agent, transaction fee to be 0, transaction fee to be reduced to $2.95. Does anyone see a problem with what that's creating? You're not getting paid at all. We're eliminating the entire commission. That's kind of a problem. So when you look at your thing, you say, oh, I'm gonna pay for the $2.95 myself. I'm gonna be the agent that's nice to my client. I'll pay it myself. And then you write brokerage fee to be 0. You could get 0. Now I bring this up, not because a client has said, I'm not paying you before, but from the compliance department, if a client decides that, well, let me ask you this. Have you ever had a client at the closing table get a little bit frustrated? Okay, what if they came back and they said, you know what, I don't want to pay you anymore. And then they pull out this addendum that says brokerage fee to be 0. We cannot defend you. You're going to lose your commission. Next. That's wrong. All right, next one. Okay, what I want to start seeing is brokerage fee to be 6%, 7%, 8%. I want to see a specific number. Or you can say brokerage fee to be 6% plus whatever the new fee or whatever you're changing that to. Or number 3, the brokerage fee to be this. Okay, don't separate those two. Those are now together. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, I don't want to see the first one come through and Russ and I look at each other and go, I wonder if they're just doing this for me. We don't want to do that. Okay, so that's the first one. That should save you money. So don't do that. If you have questions, reach out to us. And if you really have questions, have the TCs do it for you. All right, next one. Okay, there is 2 addendums that I want you guys to be aware of if you're using your exclusive right to sell. Number 1 is if you're changing the commission, which I just showed you. This one called exclusive right to sell change addendum is if you're changing anything on your MLS. There's one key with this one that will save you time. At the very bottom, it says Century 21 agent signature. On the other one, it says principal broker signature. So if you don't want to have to wait for Russ or myself to sign it, if you're changing like your price or terms or your marks of the MLS, use the change form. Otherwise, you have to wait for us to sign it. That makes sense? Okay, last one. This one will be a real quick one for you. Okay, so this one's going to eliminate some confusion. This one, we see a lot of problems with this. This is a normal transaction. You have a seller, you have a buyer, you have a buyer's agent, you have a seller's agent. The seller and the buyer are linked together because of the rep C. That's how we connect the two. The buyer and the buyer's agent, exclusive buyer broker agreement. Buyer's agent, buyer's seller, MLS, and buyer agency commission. And the seller's agent and seller are exclusive right to sell. If you ever have questions about what addendums you're supposed to use, ask where the problem is. Is the problem between our brokerage and their brokerage? Then it's an escrow instructions. If the problem is between a buyer's agent and a buyer, what should it be? By a broker addendum. And if it's a problem between the seller and the buyer, it's just a regular addendum. Okay, so it seems really simple, and if you've been in the business a long time, I'm sure you're looking at it saying, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But we field so many calls, and the TCs have to fix so many addendums that go from buyer's agent to seller, or buyer's agent to the buyers, all of them in the wrong forms. So we're here to help you. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Russ or I. We want you to succeed. We don't want to make it hard, but we do want to protect you so you can save money. So, all right.
That on? All right. Hey, how's everybody doing? All right, getting excited about this day. We're gonna have some good stuff going on. And I just wanted to personally introduce, just because I've had the privilege and the opportunity for so many years to work with, of course, Dave Parker and Justin Udy. The two of these individuals, the reason why I wanted to introduce is simply because frankly, we cut our teeth together. I look back at the many years that we've had the opportunity to work with each other. I look at Justin Udy. I met him way back in the day when he was a newer licensee back at Realty Executives. And I have to tell you, it was one of the more defining moments of Everest when we started having conversations about him coming over to Everest, even though he had still been with, at the time, Realty Executives. And you may remember the saga of RCI and all those different things that went on there. And it really was a defining moment. And many of you were part of that. I remember looking like Jay Bentley, Sean Hilton, and others, where you really, as I believe, we gathered together what I consider to be some of the greatest people on earth in regards to real estate. And if you know anything about Justin, this is a guy who is so committed to understanding not only the real estate process, but as someone who really, as I reflect back, who has made a commitment to mastering his business and mastering his craft. And a commitment not only from the formal education of his master's degree in real estate to on top of the fact of just a constant student of how to get better. And in the same sense, I've watched Dave, where I got to meet Dave where he had just been a few months into the industry and had the privilege and the opportunity to start spending some time with him and Jeremy Laguerre and his brokerage at the time that he had, which was Elite Realty Group. And just watching his desire to help people, to build people, to help people grow, and his commitment not only to helping people, but also both of these individuals have figured out not only how to earn a tremendous amount of money, but they've also learned how to acquire tremendous amounts of real estate. They've acquired great levels of cash and setting aside the ability to be able to invest, to help, to serve, to give. And they really are some of the most shining examples of what it means to be successful in the game of real estate. Not only do they sell a tremendous amount of real estate, not only do they have teams, but on top of that, they learn how to manage their business so that it's predictable. So there's a duplication to the process. And if there's anything that I could challenge anybody to do, is I'll watch agents who will have a successful month, they'll have a successful few months, they might even have a successful year. And then they go back to what might be considered their status quo, which is far less than that. These are two individuals that every year keep climbing the ladder to the next level. And so one of the questions I'm going to ask you when I have a chance to speak after them, which is simply this: what's next? And if there's anybody I know between Dave and Justin, there's many of you in here, but this absolutely unwavering commitment to becoming their very, very best. So with that, let's have Mr. Dave, who's speaking first? Justin, I almost got, but Justin Udy and then Dave Parker's next.
All right, there we go. So, everybody, this on this next slide is my dad. You can see that. That is my dad and my boy. Now, my dad's 82 years old. I go over to his house on a normal day, and he's up there laying block. Okay, that's who my dad is. He's laying block, and the week before this, we were laying cement. So he's 82 years old. He works hard, and he's taught me a couple things I wanted to. It's really important with this picture. First of all, it's all around. This is all around the entire yard. He laid all this block. He built a 4-car garage out of cement block. And he taught me that it's like anything can be built brick by brick. Number 2 is he's like Norma Cheers. Okay. You walk in and he's like the nicest human. And he really has taught me, like, be kind, be a good person. And I think I get emotional because sometimes when I think about business, I'm like, man, I wish I was more like my dad. Because sometimes I want to be the Terminator and be rough and be strong, but true professionals, we're kind. And we do things that are right. And the third thing I want you to think about is he taught me this, is he said, you know, I can always say, like, with the cars and with some of the things that he's so thorough with. I mean, he is a craftsman. And I would say, gosh, how did you learn to do that? And he would say, I never knew how to do it. He said, but I will tell you something, if you have the right tools, you can do anything. And I want you to think about a few of those things, because honestly, that's really what it comes down to. I have my notes here. When we start looking about what the market is and where we are, I will tell you, like, I can go through numbers and what we've done and how great we are, but it did not start that way. I got in the business in May of 2005. That first 6 months, I did 9 transactions between June and the December. The next year I did 29 transactions, and the next year I dropped because the market changed. And let me just show you, there was a property here on Meadow Drive. This is when I knew the market changed. I bought that property, renovated the property. The people were ready to close. Day before closing, they call me and they say, we're so sorry, we can't close. The bank shut its doors. And I'm like, what? Because nobody'd ever heard of that before. It had never ever occurred to them. And I was like, well, why don't we just go get another loan? He's like, he's scared. He doesn't want to deal with it. He's out. I said, okay, that's fine. Just send me his earnest money. And well, that's another thing. We didn't collect it. So thank heavens, the guy was super nice. The agent was like, could you just call my client? So I called his client, say, hey, you know, and I ended up meeting him at Costco, and he delivered me $1,000 earnest money check in the Costco parking lot. I immediately dropped the price. I literally to break even, because I'm like, the market is shifting and it's changing, and I am not going to be caught with this thing. And sure enough, got it under contract, got it sold, day closing, sewer line went out. First property ever lost money. Now, I will say this, going back to the business. Okay. Sewer line went out 3 to 5 days after closing. Our property sold, they're sold as is, right? Could I have walked away from them and said later? Absolutely. But I will say this. They came back and they said, you know what, this is an issue and it needs to be resolved. It was a little family, she was pregnant. And those are the things that we have to think about. It's like, where is the balance of business and where is the balance of making things right? Because they've done a ton of work. They've saved their money. They've done so much work that we as professionals we have to change. We have to mimic. We have to make sure, like, how do we do things? It's not this just black and white. It's like, we're always in the gray, and making those decisions happen by doing, you know, multiple transactions. Do you have the slide thing? Oh, thank you. Sorry. I just want to show you really quick the journal entry that I had. Oh, there we go. So there's my little family, right? We were just a little family at the time. Riley had just been born, my little girl. A little Liz was pregnant, and that's when the market was just changing like crazy. You can see kind of how big they are now. I'm trying to like paint this picture, right? Feels like we're like the exact same spot, but we're really not. But I want to just read this to you really quick. And by the way, I'm going to get through these because I want to answer questions. I think it's more important to like role play things, understand where the problem is, where the issues, because there is a gap and there's a way to overcome them. So I'm going to leave room. So just be coming up with questions like, well, how should I say this? This is what happened. How did you get that? You know, I want you to be thinking about those questions, okay? I'm working as hard as I can to save every penny I can. Although the media says things are improving, it keeps getting worse. The church told me we're having a fast for all the unemployed. More and more people are out of work. I'm trying as hard as I can to try to save. I'm scared for winter. I was scared. Things will get worse. I'm working extra hard and I'm purchasing food. I remember that because I was like, I don't know how bad this will get, you know, but it was bad. I pray things will be fine. You guys, I was nervous and things were changing. The market was changing. And this is the thing, like, buyers went away, sellers went away, people quit showing properties. I mean, there was a time frame where I remember a property I had sitting for 6 months, somebody had a showing. I remember saying, the market's changing around. This is the first showing in like 6 months. I love this by Ed Milet. If you want to be average, if you're happy where you are at because if you're comfortable, excuse me, let me start over. If you want to be average, if you're happy where you are because you're comfortable, scared, or lazy, and you don't want to know how to make your life better, then don't ask questions that lead to your growth. Nobody can force you to do anything you don't want to do. Everything that ever happened, all our systems, all our processes, the things that I created, all the marketing things really came from hardships that occurred during that time frame. Because those were the moments that give you the opportunity to grow. I want you to think about like if you're in the middle of winter and you're stuck in the mud, you are not going to stand there and freeze to death. If you are stuck in the mud, you're going to figure, you're going to fight, you're going to come up with alternatives, you're going to create opportunities for yourself to get out, whether it be you grab a branch, crawl yourself out. You don't care if you get dirty because you don't want to freeze to death with your feet stuck in the mud. And that's what it felt like. It felt like you were trudging through the mud and you couldn't get anything done. And so I just had to make a decision of like, man, one of the things that happened is my sister had her property up, and she's listed her home with Linda Seacrest. Okay. Now again, I'm like 3 years in the business. It's not like I've sold about 40 homes at that point. I was like a producer at the brokerage, But my sister. Listed her home with another agent. And it was at that moment I learned something. You got to be the best. You got to be known as the expert. My sister, she said to me, and she was like, she was kind to me about it, thinking back. But at the time I was like, I'm gonna kill you, And I remember sending my contractors over there. I remember like doing just these little things, right? But I assumed the business. And you got to remember, and this is not to make you feel alone, because you're not alone. That's why you're in a place like this. That's why you surround yourself in an environment of health and strength and vitality. The number one indicator of our growth is right here. It is our minds. We talk about it in our team meetings. I said, the number of the people that are going to survive this market are the people that have the strongest minds. And I just had to make the decision of like, you know what? This is me. It's my fault. I didn't show her my value. I didn't show what I do different. I didn't show her that I was a market expert and that I can do things actually better than somebody else. And that was the moment. That's when I was like, okay, time to dig deep. Time to be the expert. Like I will be known for being the best. And that was because of my sister. Honestly, it was that moment. But by surrounding yourself in an environment, creating a mindset of growth, making sure that's what the deal-a-day mentality I had was. Where I was like, okay, this business isn't working. Where I don't have anything, where is my goal? And I really had to say from the literally an invisible market to something that was visible. I'm like, I gotta do a day. I'm going to represent a buyer. I'm going to represent a seller. I'm going to find an investment property. I'm going to find a piece of land. I'm going to do something every single day and find opportunities. But I had to make sure that I was doing business building activities no matter what. Folks, salespeople, that's what we do. Order takers wait in line. They wait, they hope, they pray. People that are salespeople, pros fill the pipeline. You fill it up, you fill it tight, and you don't spend your time messing around, taking, going to the car wash, going to lunch with your friend, messing around, getting shoes. Those things you should do when you have a full pipeline. Like you guys ever heard of like when Grant Cardone says, hey, coffee's for closers. Guy hadn't closed any deals, he's like, coffee's for closers. He takes his coffee away from the guy. And it's kind of funny and kind of brutal, but it's true. It's like, go do those things after you've earned the right to go do it, right? Our job is to make sure that we're building our pipeline, building opportunities and helping people. Because when you're the best, frankly, you have the opportunity and the obligation to help them compared to somebody else. Anybody ever met an agent that's like, literally you're like, this guy is not representing them at all. It's your obligation to help them. I had some people call me last night, Brandon on the Highland property. Somebody called and I literally asked the normal questions, okay? And again, ask more questions on everything. But literally it was, hey, finally after like 6, 7 questions, and again, being silent, she said, I just gotta tell you, they're so in love with this property. I probably shouldn't be telling you that. They'd do anything to get it. You know, I mean, it was just, and I'm like, oh, you're dead. You know, I'm just like, they're not gonna win. Between everything from their offer to their earnest money, to their dates and deadlines, so when they want to come back with stuff. And again, she's doing her job trying to put a deal together, but our job's to represent our client. And it's not trickery, it's representation. And we need to be the best at understanding the sales cycle. And so making sure that we're creating a business, George said it, a predictable business. I said to myself, okay, you can see that kind of bottom corner when we created the tracker. It's like I had to know my numbers. So every single day, Jessica was in my office and I had to hit 30 contacts a day. If I didn't hit 30 contacts a day, I'd give her $20. I only paid her, I think, 3 times, I think in 3 years. Okay, because I just hated that $20, right? What'd you call me, Sam Walton Real Estate? Hated paying that $20 for her. That every single time I hit my numbers, I knew for every 8 contracts, you gotta track your metrics. You gotta know your numbers. For every 8 contacts, I get a lead. If you have 20 leads, I'd get 5 appointments. If I had 5 appointments, I'd meet with 2 people. If I met with those 2 people, I'd get 1 deal. You gotta fill your pipeline. If you're not aggressive, it's not gonna happen. I mean, this mentality of a market like this, sometimes we sit, we wait, or sit with mud on our boots, as opposed to saying, okay, I understand the market shifting, and sometimes it is natural to kind of pull back. But if you ever are ever jumping off a cliff, or you're ever doing anything like that, if you hesitate jumping off a cliff, you're gonna eat it so hard on the cliff edge. You gotta run and you gotta get after it, okay? You can't be Indiana Jones anymore, going on our little adventures. It's like, you gotta be the Terminator. Like, you gotta be like, I am going to get the business. I am going to fill my pipeline. I am going to find people that are motivated and people that want to work with me, that I can work with. But creating predictability is because I'm seeing low conversions, lost opportunities, people beat me up on commissions. So I was like, okay, you've got to master the sales cycle. I've got to know exactly what's happening. I have to know everything from reading the client, asking questions, building rapport, presenting like crazy, like a rock star. So I would never walk away. Standing objections, closing the deal, and getting referrals. And when people told me to F off, which they did, what do? What do you do when somebody says, I don't want to talk to you anymore? Ask for a referral. Right? We have these little things we forget, like, how do you be creative? What do you got to do? Right? So somebody said, dude, don't talk to me. You know what? I've overstepped my bounds. I'm sorry. Sounds like you're not ready. Just curious, is there anyone else you know that could utilize my services? Because I don't have that. And I've gotten referrals that way. I want you to think of these numbers. Only 2% of the calls you make are actually going to do business on the first call. 2%. We think we can call for sale by owners, expires, for rents, anything. It's like, dude, I'm going to call these people. I'm going to get 8 appointments today. You might, but it's probably going to happen on the 12th, 13th, or 15th call. It's a follow-up. It's not the client's job to call you back. Write that down. It is not the client's job to call you back. Write this down. Close the proximity between you and your client. Quit texting. Stop it. Pick up the phone and talk to them. I would prefer send a bomb video. That's how we just got a client. We went up against the biggest agents in the market. He said, there's 3 things why I went with you. 1, you got on a Zoom meeting with me. Everybody else just gave me a call. Number 2, you said you talked to me every single week. Number 3, I believed you. You're the highest commission and the lowest price. But you were honest with me. That's it. That was the only 3 reasons. But the Zoom was the number 1 reason. Because we close proximity, we were a person, we're a human. We're not a phone call, we're not a text. We got to connect with people. All right, and then in constant improvement, I just initiate, predict, and differentiate. In any market, I will tell you, You've got to go after it. You've got to initiate. You've got to have a predictable business. That's how I ended up saying, we'll go through this plan and saying, okay, these are the things I've got to do, but then you've got to differentiate yourself. That's when we ended up coming up with the newsletters. That's when I ended up doing, I'm trying to think of all the little things because I can't really see it, sorry. Our messages, our marketing, we ended up differentiating our services, what we can do, how we can do it. And it's not anything that's crazy. It's just saying, what do I want to do and how do I want to roll out the red carpet? Everybody will charge you a 5, 6, 7, 8% commission, but it's like, why do I get more? What is the problem the client has and what are we solving? And how do you give them more? And that's the things we have to think about. Because if you're just saying, well, you're just like everybody else, there's a lot of everybody else. You've got to stand out. And so I will tell you that things, even though things can be hard, you can overcome anything if you provide them a different type of value. To have a predictable business, you've got to have a morning ritual. Every single morning, I will tell you, I'm up at 5 a.m. I hate it every morning. Today was even worse because I was trying to finish this up to make sure I had some ideas. And like, it's never easy. But I will tell you, if I don't get up every single morning, then I will not get things done that need to get done during the day. So this is really, I would tell you, the perfect schedule and things that you should really consider. And this is something that will make the difference. And I will tell you, this is what drove productivity for me. Making sure that I had a strict schedule and a regimen so that everything I had was done by midday. George tells us all the time, take care of your morning and the afternoon will take care of itself. But making sure that I get up, you're protecting your mind, you're taking care of your body. You have to take care of it. Because if you're going to run this race, you have to be physically and mentally prepared. But making sure that you're spending the time to educate yourself. When things were the hardest, that's when I came up with the ideas of, okay, for example, where am I weak? Okay, I got to learn the sales cycle. Okay, why am I not converting? Okay, let's make sure we learn our presentation skills. Okay, you know what, this isn't working. I go to a seminar about sales training, objection handling, whatever. I became a fanatical book reader. Didn't know about seller financing, jumped on a plane, went to Chicago, learned for 3 days seller financing. The next day I did 10 deals in seller financing within like 6 months of that. You know, last night on that deal with 900 grand, I walked her through the seller finance process. And she's like, how did you learn this? I'm like, I paid for it, literally, you know, and it's spending the time and the energy. Says where you're weak, you become strong. Find something else, become strong. Find something else, become strong. Find 3 resources, master them. Make them amazing. Start getting those properties going. Okay. And then it just kind of goes through, it's just like, you got to pick your heart. You know, it's hard to get a job. It's hard to sit around and not make money. It's hard to prospect. You pick your heart. And I will tell you, you do the things that are hard, you will see that you can have a life that's different than everybody else. Because a lot of things you have the choice to decide which direction you want to go. Things are going to change, folks. There's going to be people that lean in and the people that fall out. But if you lean in, you're going to get things done. But our job is to plan, prospect, lead follow-up, attend appointments, negotiate deals. Anything outside of that, anything outside of that is not your job. It's a distraction. It's not going to take care of, you're not going to be able to get things done. Okay. I have some other things I was going to go over, but I want to spend a minute and answer any questions on numbers and so forth. I will tell you, during this time frame is where we built kind of the system of, you know, the most deals I ever did on my own personally was, I think, 47 deals. The most deals I ended up when I started focusing on listings was 97 listings in a year. I will tell you, one year I took 92 listings at a 7% amount. But this is why, and this is one of the gaps I'm seeing. We're only offering this service and that's it. Offering them multiple services. Okay, don't just give them one service. It's 6% and that's what you get. Well, a guy called us. He said, "Hey, what do we want to do?" He's like, "I need to know your commission. Always give them your price." You know how we always sometimes like dodge it? Like, I'm gonna tell them, like, a freaking hang up on them. Look, make it broad, but give them the info. So this is what I say. You know, commissions runs typically from 1% to 10%. 1% if I'm just doing paperwork, 10% if I'm doing your full development. You know, a lot of people like our 5 and 6 and 7% program, but those are customized programs. Just curious, are you looking to do where you have your representing yourself, or are you looking at something more in the middle? Well, I kind of look at something, well, we probably, it's a customized plan, so we should probably come over and let's discuss which is going to be the best one for you. Right? Boom. That's it. It's easy because now they're like, okay, how can I fit my slot? You ever go to a restaurant? You're like, dude, I don't like this menu. And you're like, hey, can I get a side of green beans? Hey, can I get a side of what this? Like we always did that. Why can't we provide that for our clients? In a market where everybody sticks in this like little lane, you got to ask questions. We're here to solve a problem. What's your problem? Everybody's got a problem. They say they're motivated. It's like, you got a problem. How can I solve it? They come up with different ideas for that. Okay, what questions do we maybe have? And I think, how much do I have? I don't even think I have 2 minutes here. That's it. Right? 1 minute.
Yeah.
Minutes. What questions? I want to say, hey, this is the problem. What would you say? How would you say it? These guys told me to eat it. I don't know.
When there's such a gap between where you are, and there's of course newer licensees here, there's agents doing 15, 20, 30 deals a year. Sometimes what you're talking about may seem so out of reach. How did you get to that point where you were able to see yourself today where you are versus I knew you when literally you were selling 9 homes a year? I mean, I knew you.
Yeah.
Right there with Eric. Is Eric, isn't right? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Back in the day?
Yes.
Right? I mean, and you were just trying to figure it out and struggling like I watched so many people. What got you from there to here to be able to bridge that gap mentally and emotionally?
Everything is brick by brick. That's why I think I started that way. It was never this leap. It's just piece by piece by piece by piece. It's like you naturally have to love people and care for people and want to help them, but there is a way to craft your messaging and the words you use. You know, I can, for example, it's like, I'm going to sell you this water bottle, right? Tastes good, tastes great. It's a premium brand. It's going to be fantastic. I think if you buy this from me, it'll be great. Once you drink it, you can throw it away. Ooh, now somebody's going to be like, you're going to throw it away. What about that? What about the earth? Are you going to recycle that? You know, sometimes we say too much. It's like, look, I've got a great product. It's a premium product. I'm going to make sure you have it. Take a look at it. Tell me if it works for you. What would you like to change? Does it work for you? Is there anything else I need to change? Is there a different label I can add? You know what I mean? Sometimes we say things and we don't realize it kills the deal. We say too much because we haven't asked the questions. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? There's a lot of details in those crafts of just making sure that as salespeople, we're super aggressive by asking more questions. The question-based selling book, I think, is fantastic. But getting curious, like when you're genuinely curious and start asking, we stop at the questions sometimes in the script book, and it's you're fact finding for a reason. You're not fact finding just to be like, can I do a deal with this guy? You're fact finding to see what else can I help them with, and so when something comes up later, you already know. Does that make sense? Always give people an alternative. When you're taking them to a property, you're set, have a listing, whatever. Always offer them a lower and a higher price item. You want to see how they respond to that. Hey, you love this property. No, this is an amazing property. It's 750,000. Are you sure you don't want to just go into this other neighborhood? Prices are 650. You're going to save a couple $1,000 a month. Now, most agents will be like, dude, I just have them on 750 house. I'm going to lose $3,000 on my commission. As opposed to, they get in the 750 house, they start running their payments, you're 30 days in, and they're like, dude, I'm out. It's just too much. I mean, that happens all the time. But they're just, it's just too much. But if you brought up the 650, you're like, well, we talked about this. So guess what? Let's go to the 650 house. So just asking more questions, getting more curious. Anything you don't know about, dig deeper on, learn it, master it. That's why I went and got the master's in real estate development. Like it felt like it kind of like, this sounds horrible, but like I felt like I was selling boxes. Like everything started looking the same to me, you know? And I'm like, man, that's a bad place to be. So it's like, I feel like there was this gap, and once I did that, like all of a sudden it made real estate fun again. And that's what I needed, because I needed just growth, I needed change. So I just say, always be growing, always be going forward. So thank you. Okay, you're up, brother.
Thanks, Justin. You guys here? Mike?
Yeah.
I love Justin. I've known Justin now for probably 7-8 years. Years and years ago, when I first met Justin, way intimidating. He's, I tell him this all the time, and I'm not saying it to be mean, but I think Justin's the smartest guy in almost every room he's in. So, and I was always a little bit intimidated of him. And I remember one time, you guys don't know and you don't follow him, he does these dad jokes every morning with his son.
Yeah.
And they're pretty hilarious. So he's a good follow to follow. But I met him and his son at work, and Justin, being a little bit intimidated of him, said to me and said to his son, he's like, "Oh, follow this guy around. He's full of money. He just falls out of his pants once in a while." and I remember just kind of like, I'm more of an amiable, kind of an introvert. Like, I remember kind of being a little bit annoyed, like, what the hell is that? He's like, does he think I'm bad with money? Does he think I'm irresponsible? I mean, that was my thought with Justin. And I thought about that. No kidding, less than 1 week later, someone had owed me some money from either a bet or something, but I lost $500 in cash, and guess who found it? Justin Udy. So, there was a note that went around and said, "If you're missing some cash, give me a call." I'm like, "Well, if it's worth $500, to call him." I really didn't lose $500, but anyhow, I appreciate Justin. Very, very good information. I'm going to touch upon some things that are very similar, but before I start, let me have everyone else stand up just to get a little bit of energy. I know it's hard on some of these summits sometimes just sit for a period of time. Just stretch just a little bit. And I want you to think of this and stretch for just a little bit more. But if you have been in a high-speed chase, I want you to remain standing. Anyone else that has not been in a high-speed chase, I want you to sit down. It's for my own curiosity. You got a handful. Being chased by police officers. Anyone else? Help me down. Okay, if you have a high-speed chase and at the very end you were in handcuffs to the back of a police car, if you haven't, please stand down. All right, so I got some stories over here that I'd like to talk to you after, but I'm one of those guys. Once, when I was 17 years old, I was in a high-speed chase, and the problem with that is I didn't know I was in a high-speed chase. I was 17 years old, it was Christmas Eve, and I was going up to Bear Lake. My family was doing a Christmas party. I was with my little sister, and we were in a Ford Ranger, and it had a shell on the back, and it was lightly snowing. I was 17, she was 15, and we were cruising. I was late, of course, and I was probably going 85, 95 miles an hour, and I was going in and out of cars all the way up to Bear Lake. Well, I got a long stretch, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and I saw a cop. I'm like, "Oh, I'm getting pulled over. Dang it, another ticket." Well, I pull over, and all of a sudden I hear on the loud horn, roll down the window, turn off the vehicle, and I'm like, and I see the cop. His door's open. He has his gun drawn on me, and he makes me throw out the keys. He makes me turn off the car, throw out the keys. I get out and I go backwards 10 spaces. He's like, 10 spaces back, lay on the ground. Well, he put me in handcuffs, put my sister in handcuffs. Like on wet snow, got the back of a cop car. And I realized, after the fact, after he sat down, and I could see him pacing back and forth for a little while. And I could see that he was like, thought he was going to kill someone that day, that I was in a high-speed chase, and I didn't know him. I guess that he was following me for about 3 or 4 miles, and I was beating him at things that it was a high-speed chase. So what was that? 15. That's my sister, by the way. That's over the years and stories. It keeps getting back. I think it was 3 miles. Anyhow, eventually I got off and I wasn't arrested and I got out of the handcuffs. But the reason bringing that up is, one, it's a fun story, but two is I think sometimes in our lives we go through periods of time where we don't maybe check some things, maybe some things around us or surroundings or things that we're doing that really could protect us if we would. If I had looked at the rear mirror, if I would have focused, maybe not the radio up so loud, maybe, miles and miles before, could have realized that I was being pulled over by a cop and maybe avoided some difficulty with my parents and some difficulty with the law. But I wanted today to talk a little bit about some of the things in our business that we need to make sure that we're focusing on to make sure that we don't have major consequences in our business. So I want to go through about 10 different things, then I'll leave the rest of the time for George. So I love that Justin talked about our daily disciplines in our careers, as things that we're supposed to be doing every single day. I realized early in my career that this is some training, and you hear this 80-20 rule a lot. You hear that 80% of the business is done by 20% of the real estate agents. But another thing that I've heard is 80% of the time that we spend in our business needs to be focused on money-making activities. And the question is what is a money-making activity? Well, there's a lot of different things. There's showing properties, there's listing presentations, there's buyer presentations, there's open houses, which I never do. I will never do an open house. I have very strong feelings on that. There's lots of things that are money-making activities that we should be focusing on. Prospecting, lead follow-up is other items. Well, 80% of our day, and if you calculate that on an 8-hour, little 8-hour workday, that's 6.5 hours of our day. Every single day needs to be focusing on money-making activities. Negotiating contracts, those are other money-making activities. So the question I want to propose to you is, if you are not on listing appointments, if you are not on buyer presentations, if you're not negotiating the contract, if you're not doing an open house, what is left that you should be doing 6.5 hours a day? Prospecting. Prospecting and lead follow-up. And I know that sounds crazy sometimes to think 6.5 hours prospecting on the phone. But the nice thing on it is once you start prospecting that way, and that's how I started off my business, is you realize over a period of time that you don't end up having to do 6.5 hours of prospecting very long, because you start getting appointments, you start negotiating contracts, you start doing buyer and listing presentations. So the rest is an hour and a half is administrative stuff. We should be, hour and a half on things like paperwork, adding in things in documents, putting our listing package together, getting business cards, some of the marketing material, only an hour and a half. So if you really want to focus, some of the fundamentals in our business is analyze the day. We all have these rhythms and things that we do over periods of time. Analyze where you're spending your time. What are we focusing on throughout the day? Justin talked about so much time wasters on lunches sometimes, or going and buying shoes and different things like that. When I first started off, I thought I was working really hard. If you would have asked young Dave, 16, 17 years ago, like, are you a hard worker? Did you put a good day's work? I would have thought yes. But looking back, most days I was playing ping pong with Phil at his house. For about an hour and a half. We get pizzas and sometimes we watch movies, or we'd be playing basketball in the mornings. We'd come in about 11 o'clock. And guess what happened about 11:30? It was lunchtime, and that was my schedule. But if you asked me, I was working hard. But it wasn't until I got some mentoring and some coaching, and I bring George up a lot in this because George shaped my career. The things that are being taught in Everest shaped my career. It's made me a multi-millionaire. A lot of people will ask me, why are you here? Where else would I be? Where else would I go? This is shaped and it continues to allow me to grow my business. So just make sure that you're analyzing your business. Where are you spending your time? If you're not doing that, make sure that you're focusing 6 to 6.5 hours of your day in things that actually bring income in. Okay, another area that I've learned is most top producers, if you study top producers, they don't do everything. They just do a few things and they do it better than everyone else. I've realized in my career that we should be focusing on no more than about 2 to 3 different lead types. I've decided in my career that website leads was an area of focus that I wanted to master. The other area that I spent a lot of time and energy is working my sphere of influence. Those are the 2 lead types that I focus on my business. Having a third is okay as well, but we need to make sure that we're picking 2 or 3 different lead types that we're focusing on every single day. And all of us should have our sphere of influence. So that really leaves maybe 1 or 2 other areas that you're doing. If you'll do that and you'll focus on mastery, that's where your business will start to explode. that's when you'll start seeing those growths that you're wanting to look at. When I first started, I was doing everything. I was knocking doors for sale by owners, expired listings, I was talking to attorneys, I was talking to divorce attorneys, I was talking to, I was doing, default, notice a default list, I was posting things on mail or on the telephone post, and I was trying to do lease options. I was trying to get someone that wanted a lease option, someone willing to do a lease option, be in the middle and get a commission. I mean, I was trying everything, and I was making some money, but it wasn't until I finally got some coaching, some help, where it was stop doing everything. Look at the people that are doing really, really well, and they usually just do a few things and they do it better than everyone else. And that's what I started to do, and my business started to really increase. Okay. Something that, talking to Justin and talking to George just about this training today. One of the things that George had brought up is just make sure that you share your journey. I think even the question today to Justin was it seems sometimes not relatable because Justin is so polished. It's like, I love that he talked about his early career. I love that he talked about 2007 and going in 2008, going through some of the hardships. When I first started, guys, prospecting was terrifying for me. When I started with Jeremy, I remember, specifically thinking, well, if we do it together, it will be a little bit easy and also have some accountability built in. So what we did is we shared an office and we make a call every other time. He'd make a call and then I would make a call. And every time it was my turn to make a call, I was hoping for a voicemail. I mean, I wasn't hoping that someone picked up to get a listing and help my family out. I was hoping that we can get it back to Jeremy, because, then I can listen to him and see how much he screws up. So just know that it doesn't come easy. This whole business, I love the brick by brick to build something. It was my career was very, very difficult at the very beginning. When I first started, I was in major financial debt. I had $60-some thousand in credit card debt. I was making probably that a year, and I was trying to build a real estate career, and most of the credit cards were maxed out. Jeremy and I remember there was a moment early in my career that Jeremy and I drove over to, I think it was Cypress Credit Union. And I was maxed out and they weren't giving me any more credit. And I remember Jeremy was our hope. And he walked in there and I sat in the parking lot and watched him. And I just thought in my mind, like, either he walks out and he gets a credit card or a line increase, or we're not going to make our mortgage payment this month. And I remember thinking in my mind, like, it's kind of a Tuesday, let's see how it goes. Luckily he did, and we got the line of credit and everything's figured out. But this business has taken a lot of brick by brick, building it up, figuring it out, making mistakes, getting through things. The fear of prospecting at first and being terrified of doing that, to a point where it finally started to feel normal, to the point where I'm like, I'm actually pretty good at this. I actually can convert and make some money through this. All those things, but it just starts that. So if you're early in your business, or even if you're seasoned and you're not a prospector, just know it's okay. Most people that do this very well, it was very difficult at the beginning. My first introduction to George was a summit about this size. He was doing this coaching program after he had sold realty executives. And I remember that he took about an hour and he made live for sale by owner calls. And it blew my mind. Like, to a point where, have you ever seen a magician where you're like, I want to believe, I think it's real, but it can't be real. That's what I was looking at when he was making it for sale by owner. I'm like, I think he's calling his brother. There's no way he can get this polished. And the guy said, yes, he's meeting him on Tuesday. It blew my mind that was happening. And I walked away, not that I was all of a sudden now I was the guy and I was going to do everything that George did, but I was inspired that if he could figure out what to say and how to say it, then maybe I could as well. That was the light bulb that went to the back of my head. It's like, maybe I can figure out how to say this too. And it took many, many years to figure out how to develop those skills. So if you're there and you're not at the level that you're supposed to be patient. It takes a while to figure it out. It takes a lot of calls and a lot of hang-ups and a lot of, there's times I remember calling and in the middle of a conversation, I'm like, all right, we'll talk to you later. I have no idea what to say. But you asked a good question and I don't know what to say. And then after, like, I should have said that. And then the next time I said that a little bit different. So it's okay to be awful at this. It's okay to struggle, but what's not okay is not to try. Not to make the adjustments, not to improve your skill set, not to constantly and never ending improvement. That can I that George used to say all the time, constant and never ending improvement. Are we consistently working on it and getting better? I promise you, if you do, you can go from a guy that's begging, a credit union to increase your line of credit, to a guy that's made millions and millions of dollars in real estate. And just learning these skills. Okay, next thing, one of the things I learned early in my career, and this was mistakes as well, is it's not necessarily the things that you're saying, or maybe even the things that you're providing with marketing material, but it's how they're feeling inside. When I first started, I spent so much time on my marketing presentation or my marketing packet. I had this packet, I'd have my CMA in the back, but I'd go to Kinko's and it was laminated, it looked so professional. And I remember so many times walking into a listing presentation and giving it to them, almost kind of a hoping that this would get me the listing. Like they were going to look at this and be like, you got it, dude. Look at this thing. This is awesome. That's kind of what my thought was. But guess what ended up happening? Is I would sit down and I would want to, I'd go to the kitchen table because Mike Ferry said that's where you needed to be, at the kitchen table. And I would sit down and guess what they'd start doing? They start looking at my listing presentation while I was trying to talk to them. And there was no connection and they were sitting there judging me on my listing presentation. I got nowhere. So I realized over time that I actually had the listing presentation. I had the comparables, but a lot of times that they didn't even need it. They didn't even need all the data. They didn't even need it. They just needed to feel comfortable that I was the professional and I was the person that was going to lead them to what they were trying to accomplish. So I'd have that in my bag. I'd have that for that analytical personality. It's like, I need to see that data. But I realized that most people didn't need that. Most people needed to feel connected. They needed to make sure that we had a rapport. So if if you're in this business, one of the things, and we use this acronym, and if everyone doesn't know this, it's pretty simple, but we use this quite a bit on our team, is the FORD acronym. Family, occupation, recreation, and dream. Family, occupation, recreation, dream. I'm an amiable, kind of an introvert. It's not a natural thing for me to go into a room and be the center of attention and connect to everyone. I got an expressive as a business partner, Chad. He does that. Everywhere he goes, it's like he walks away and they're like, I like that guy for some reason. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that's like, that guy has resty bitch face, I don't know. My wife says it all the time. Everyone thinks I'm mad at him. I'm not mad. I'm actually pretty happy to be there. But it's not a natural thing for me. It takes me energy. And so when I go into a room and I'm meeting people, I'm thinking family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Tell me a little bit about your family. Where are you from? How long have you been here? What things are you into? What do you do for work? What are you trying to accomplish? Those are things that I have to think about to be able to build rapport. But I realized that that's a skill for someone that doesn't want to talk to anyone. But this was a skill that I can learn to be able to connect to someone, which allowed me to earn their trust so that lead them through a transaction. So if you don't have that, just think of that all the time. When you're talking to someone in their house or a new buyer or a new listing, is family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. We'll listen to calls constantly within our team. And a lot of times at the very end, we'll go through it and say, do you know about their family? Do you have no idea what their occupation is? Do you know what things that they're into? And do you know what they're trying to accomplish with their dreams? And if they don't, then we haven't built enough rapport to start leading them through the process. It's a crucial thing to be able to get business. Okay. SOI. You have to have a plan with an SOI. And I think I've told this in maybe a panel before. But you have to have a way to develop and a way to get business through your SOI. This business, when you first start, is the most difficult business because no one really knows if you're going to take this serious. The stat is, I think it's 88 or 90% within the first year out of this business. That's a massive stat, which means is a lot of people get their license, say they're going to be a real estate agent, and then within a year, they're not going to be a real estate agent. So I think family and friends and people in our neighborhood or associates, I don't think there's a lot of trust when you first start. Justin Udy was at 3 years and still losing a deal to his sister. I've lost a deal to a brother. It takes a while to build that connection and that trust with our sphere of influence. But the thing I realized early in my career is I needed a plan to be able to develop that. When I first started, I did not put the focus. It was about 2 years into the business. And I was, and he's not here, and he'd love this, and don't tell him about this, but Josh Johnson was just crushing me in the business. And he loves that because he's not crushing me now. It's been a lot of years, like 10 years, even in close. It's awesome to find about that. But he was crushing me. And it was because he was Mr. Realtor. Obnoxious pink stuff, and he had his trailer and his truck wrapped, and And I just remember being like, I don't want to be that guy, but I also kind of want to be that guy. You know, he had all the money, he had the truck, he had the big house, and he was crushing. And I realized that I was being that secret agent. I was being the agent that I was okay prospecting and going on listing appointments, but I really didn't want my friends and my close family, or maybe my wife's family, or all these different people to know that I was in real estate. I didn't want to be that guy. And it wasn't until I finally realized that, you know what, I need to care about my career. I need to care about my goals, my dreams, more than I care about the way that I feel inside. And I started to put a plan together, you know, and some of the things that I would recommend, and my career changed. All of a sudden I started building an asset. All of a sudden now, the majority of the business I do now is referral-based business. And it's become easier and easier because I have a plan. So a simple little plan to work your SOI is just, you know, 4 or 5 simple things. One is make sure that you have anyone in your sphere of influence, anyone that you have influence that would look at you and say, yeah, there's some trust there that's been built up. Friends, families, neighbors, old mission people, old work people, old church relationships, high school people, college roommates. I mean, all that kind of stuff should be in a CRM system, and they should be having an automatic drip system that's happening to them. It's very simple, just something, you know, that reminds them that you're in real estate. All those same people in this social, if you're on Twitter or your Facebook or Instagram, or whatever social network that you use, every single one of those people need to be friends. And constantly throughout the year, you need to be posting things that remind them that you're in real estate. We have an amazing videographer, my nephew right there. Matthew, stand up real quick. He absolutely does all of our videos. If you ever watch it, thanks, Matthew, appreciate it. He's available, by the way, for videos as well. But he's amazing at what he does at videos. And when we first started, I sat down with him, and there was a little bit of a misunderstanding what the purpose of the video was. Do you think anyone is buying our house because of our videos? No. Guys, no one's buying our house. Don't record this and pass this on there. But no one's buying our house because of the video. But what we're doing is we're marketing and exposing to our sphere of influence that we are professionals, that we are selling homes, that we are successful in what we do. And it's planting a lot of seeds that when it comes time to real estate needs, use us and look at this product that we're presenting. You know, and so make sure that you're doing that. But if all your sphere of influence are part of your social network, then all you have to do is post that, and there's another feed that they get. You're hitting them with the drip campaign, you're hitting with that, with the social media post. The other thing that we do throughout the year, and Citrus 21 offers 2 great events, but we have client events. You know, client events, you know, and client appreciation events is what we call them, is a great way to be able to invite and have a conversation with them that isn't the awkward, like, do you mind if we talk about real estate or business for a bit? You know, like, I hated that. You know, calling, ring, ring, ring. Hey, buddy, do you mind if we talk about business? You know, that was not me. That makes me feel uncomfortable even hearing that. So I wanted another reason throughout the year to be able to have a conversation that connected me to business. When I call them now and I say, hey, my real estate business is doing a client event, I'd love to have your family come. You know, we do the pumpkin patch, we do the Easter egg hunt, we've done a bees game. We just did a bees game where we invited everyone and took them to a bees game. We do Capital on the Bay. There's throughout the year, we at least do 3 a year, but we do a client event. It's another way. One of my best friends, John Young, he rents out, it connects to a food truck. And he basically posts and he's like, hey, I rented this taco truck or whatever, come down. And again, he'll just go to the food truck where they're going to be anyhow. He'll post a video, and whoever shows up, he'll have to pay for it. How inexpensive as a single agent with a little small team that he has, where he doesn't have to rent out Capital on the Bay. He's also rented out, you know, a rec center, and he does his swim parties there. Simple little things to be able to reach out and connect to your sphere of influence. Okay, so that's basically all I do on there. I make sure that every single time a transaction is closed, they get inputted in there, and that system continues to grow. We've seen that over and over within our team, that if they'll follow that, they'll continue to add more into their sphere of influence. There's almost like a balance or an equilibrium that ends up happening, is where they end up getting more business from sphere of influence than they have to in prospecting. Which 2 things can happen, is either they can increase their transaction count, or their quality of life increases. They do the same transaction count, they don't have to work as hard to get the business. And either one of those are great. So, how much time do I have, George? We can take 2 more minutes, okay? Yeah, last thing is, I have two things, well, two things, one thing I'm gonna just like, get on the same page with your significant other. I would say one of, a story with George is, I remember when I was, and I've mentioned this in other things years ago, most forget anyhow, so it doesn't matter. Let me hear George's stories like 9 times in a row, so if George can do 9, I can do 2, so. But I remember in a coaching session, it was me and George and Jeremy, in fact, I have a video of it, and it's probably, 13, 14 years ago. And it's awesome, but I remember George sitting in our conference room, and I was making probably $170,000 a year. And we're asking George, like, how do we double our income? And he sat down and he spent like an hour mapping it out. This is how many contacts, and this is how many, presentations, and this is how many listings from those presentations. And this is, what you need. And he just mapped it out on our board for about an hour. And I remember at that time in my business where I was frazzled. I was working my butt off. I was late nights, long weekends. And I remember sitting there waiting, like, okay, I just want to say it. I want him to finish, and then I want to hit it. And I remember saying to him, I said, George, that's awesome. Everything that you said I can do, but I'm going to be divorced. And I remember like just seriously, like, yeah, that's great. I can do it, but I'll be divorced. So what's your answer to that? Well, he helped me with that. There was a skill that I didn't really understand that I needed to have in my life, that I need to make sure I was on the same page with my spouse or my significant other. I think it's one of the most crucial things that I see from a mid-grade agent, going from a mid-grade agent to a very successful agent, is to make sure with their significant and they're on the same page. Well, I realized that I was willing to take anything and everything, and I was not willing to structure my life according to work with my wife. And so he recommended a few little tricks and things that help. One of the words they use, he's like, you need to negotiate with your wife. And I thought I might like, my wife's not a terrorist. I mean, like, that's a weird word to say, like negotiate with your wife. But guess what I did? I negotiated with my wife. She's back there, so she's kind of a terrorist a little bit. She's a sweetheart. But I remember sitting down with her, and I went through the process of, this is the things that I need to do to be successful. What do you need from me as a husband and as a father to make sure I'm building this business for us? And I remember her specifically saying, well, if I could have 2 nights a week that I knew that you would be walking in the door at this time, I'm okay on those other nights that if I didn't see you, that's fine. And I remember like, that seems reasonable. I think I'm already doing that now, kind of thing. And so I picked Monday and I picked Fridays that I promised her that I would, regardless of who was there. If Donald Trump was going to go by or whatever, the random area, I was not going to go on that appointment. And I would be in that door at 6 o'clock on Monday and Friday. And she would allow me on a Tuesday when I was at 6 o'clock and I was calling her saying, hey, I'll be home in 15 minutes. If I got a call from a buyer or a listing that wanted to meet, I was able to call her back with good faith to say, no, it's Tuesday, you go in on that appointment. And I needed that. I needed that because a lot of times I already told her I'm gonna be home, and if I call her, she's gonna be upset. Like, that was really important for me because I was taking anything and I was unreliable on any part of a relationship. So that worked for me. I also negotiated like a certain amount of vacations, that was the negotiation. What can we look forward to with the success that we're doing? What could we buy that was exciting for her? I figured out her love language was vacations. So we go on 4 or 5 a year. My love language is not vacations. I would rather camper than vacation. But we go on 4 or 5 because that's what she needs. That's what really sells our relationship. Last thing, and I'll turn it over to George, is focus on the things in your business that you love. I think often of the longevity in this business. How do you do this for a long, long time? I realized that if I can focus on the things that I love within this business and figure what that is and put my time there and try to eliminate and try to delegate everything that I don't like, I can do this business for a long time. I brought up open houses. Guys, I despise, so you will never see me say this publicly. You will never see me at an open house. I despise it. Some people love them. I'm not saying that for me, it's not. Chad Wagstaff absolutely loves to go and have these meetings and connect and be excited. I hate that. But Chad also hates negotiations. He hates the nickeling and diming of repairs. I love that stuff. I mean, I love the idea that I'm saying this and see if I can push this and, my fiduciary, and I love to go through that process. So we all have different things that we love and things that we despise in this business. Figure out what you love. Make that your focus of your life. I love training, guys. I read in my journal, I was going through that. This is something that George had me do back in 2009. And there's a whole section of basically outlining your equities or your areas of your life and what that looks like if it was perfect. And there's a whole section that talks about the love I have to be able to help and to train and to encourage people and to share the things that I was able to learn with them. That's the time I didn't know anything. But I love the idea of being able to help and inspire people to do better. And that's where I focus most of my day. Most of my day is to focus on things that of helping my agents, helping their transactions, helping their success. That's where I focus. And it's easy for me to wake up and go to work and to make it consistent and have longevity in my business because it's not really feels like it's something that I despise. I hear constantly agents like, I'm so sick of this. Well, it's because they're focusing on things they don't love. If they would get rid of a lot of that stuff and figure out within this business of what they really love and make that their time, it would be difficult. And that's how you get longevity. So, thanks guys. I appreciate it. It's been nice to meet you.
All right, how's everybody doing? Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Justin. Much appreciated. Give another round of applause. The thing that I always love about these moments is the fact that people get to figure out who they are. And I was reflecting as the two of you were up here. And years ago, I thought I'd come up with what I consider to be a really, really brilliant couple of questions. And the questions, I then posed them to a mentor and to a friend of mine. And these were the two questions. The first question is, what am I really going to do with my life? And as he was listening, he said, well, that's a great question. Well, sure, answer the question. And we started talking about and speculating what I want to do with my life. And then the second thing that I said, but the second question is, who do I want to do those things with? And that became really the most important question. And right when I said it, he said these words to me. He said, oh, the first question doesn't even matter. The thing I've concluded on is that the end of all of this, the things that matter most at the end of the day are the things that we do with others. And I have to tell you that as I've observed that and watched that over the years, it has been fascinating for me to watch people misalign their focuses as to what they believe it means to be successful in this business or frankly in life. My observation is that people somehow check out really quick. And my observation is that, when you see yourself checking out, ask yourself, where else are you checking out in your life? Where you see patterns in your life, ask yourself, where else is it showing up? If you can't get 20 or 30 contacts in a day, where else is that showing up in your life? When you can't get up on time or you aren't disciplined in particular areas of your life that you really want to, where else is it showing up? If you're not calling one group of people, maybe it's that you're not calling another group of people that are even more important, not necessarily even from a transactional business standpoint, but more so just from the standpoint of people you love, you care for, and you adore. The fact is that our lives are filled with patterns within our lives. And some of them are really extraordinary patterns, and sometimes they're not such great patterns. But one of the things I'm certain of is that there comes a point in each one of our lives where we start to somewhat wake up. And the challenge is that sometimes when we wake up way too late. We wake up on literally deathbeds. We wake up on literally at the tail end of life, recognizing what we wish we would have done, time we would have taken for certain things and done certain things. I can remember when I was about 13 years old, my brother Rick and I had this great idea, which is pretty much every weekend, but we decided that this weekend again, we were going to sneak out from our house. And as we were sneaking out, Rick is my stepbrother, and my dad and my stepmother at the time, their bedroom was right at the front of our home. And as we were already outside, we had accomplished, crawling out a basement window. It was probably around 12 o'clock or 1 in the morning, and we were going to go hang out with a bunch of other friends over the park, do things that were completely inappropriate at every level, I'm sure. But we had a mad plan, and we were moving around the backyard, and we had crossed over this chain link fence to get out of our own yard. Well, I thought that my brother had been just a little bit too loud, and that he was being a little bit too noisy. And so I started complaining to him under a very small whisper that started, I guess, to elevate, because my voice does carry just a hair. As someone has said, your voice carries like a gunshot across the lake. And so I started to complain about how he was making too much noise. And then he bickered back at me, and as we're walking down the driveway, I turn and I see out of the corner of my eye, my father walking down the middle of the driveway, storming down, and he's in his pajamas. And man, he is on a mission to stop this great plan. And he grabs both Rick and I and takes us and slams our heads together and basically, kind of so many words, wakes us up. Now, the good news is that I there created the greatest acting skills that I've ever been known, because he thought that he had slammed our heads together, but somehow I got my hand up there between the two heads. And so I acted like it had happened. Like most agents, they act like how bad the market is when it's really not that bad. It's one of those ones. So I'm in this great act. I could have gotten a Grammy for it. I act like I've been injured. We get pulled back into the house, of course, to our bedrooms. Of course, the next day, I don't know how it was, because I don't have that much composure. But at that moment, he put us in our bedrooms, and then the next morning we talked about it. He told us how we should never do that again. I'm sure we snuck out about 2 weeks later, or maybe even the next weekend, I don't know. But this is the one thing it did for me, is it woke me up. And here's my observation right now, is I'm watching people in this business who need to wake up. And there's a lot of different angles to that waking up. It could be the waking up of the way in which you find your commitment. It could be you waking up in regards to the amount of prospecting you're doing. It could be waking up to the standpoint of there's a transition and changes within the market. But just really ask yourself, are you awake? Like legitimately, like, are you awake? Or are you just going through the motions of life? Are you just acting, in a certain fashion in this business, but that you're not even really there? I mean, how many times have you driven in your car? Ask yourself, how many times have you driven in a car? It might even been here. Do you remember driving here? Just think about that. Have you ever gotten somewhere and you don't even remember how you got there? I've had that happen many a times, because the reality is we're not really awake. We're just going through the motions. We're just going through the calls. We're just making, our way through life, and we're not even awake. So my observation is that there's just a few things I want to talk to you with the short time that we have, is to just simply maybe wake up just a little bit in a few areas of your life. Because if you'll wake up, then all of a sudden you'll have a better life. And at the end of the day, I've said this for years, I don't really care how much money you earn personally. I mean, I love it to the idea that you have a commitment to wanting to achieve and to accomplish and to have success. But at the end of the day, what I'm most concerned about is how much of a person you become and who you become in the process. And I truly still believe this day, when I look at moments like Justin and Dave and so many other great friends and individuals in this company, I love the journey. I love the breakthroughs. I love the healing. I love the awakening. I love the success. I love seeing the achievement. I even love seeing the failure and the grind, and people rising up above all of it and finding out who they really are and who they ultimately could be. I am mesmerized by it. I think it is amazing to watch the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the triumphs, the failures, and watching people rise above them is nothing but pure inspiration and delight in my life. Because what I have a deep belief is that whatever you want to achieve in this business specifically, I know that you can achieve it if you choose to do it. So I look at people like a Florence Chadwick, who just even the year before, in 1951, set a world record for swimming across the English Channel. But no one had ever swam from the Catalina Island on the coast of California all the way to the Pacific coast. And so one day in 1952, she decided she was going to do it. It's a 26-mile swim. So she gets into the water, all the media is there, people are on 2 boats on both sides of her. They have shotguns, they have all sorts of things to scare off the great white whales, and guns are going off, and she's swimming, and like almost every day, a wave of fog comes in. And she keeps swimming and she keeps swimming and she keeps swimming and she keeps swimming. And then all of a sudden, she stops swimming and says, I can't go on any further. They try to motivate her, convince her, challenge her, say, just keep going. But she gets into the boat and she gives up. She's interviewed that day later and she said, I know I could swim. And then she said these, I believe, to be very famous words. I believe I could have made it if I just could have seen the land on the other side. My point to you is that everything that you're about today, if you're someone who's just going through the motions and you're just swimming in the sea of real estate and you're just trying to succeed, but you aren't real clear on where you're going, like a Florence was, she couldn't see the land, she didn't know where she was going, she got disoriented, she got nauseous. It wasn't that she wasn't capable, just like every one of you. There's not one of you in here, not one of you in here that isn't capable of selling an extraordinary amount of real estate. So if that isn't the issue, then what is the issue? The issue is sometimes we forget where we're going. Sometimes we forget the destination. Sometimes we forget that we have to cast a clear enough vision that we can see it so clearly that we don't settle in on the idea that limitations and settling and scarcity become the primary focus of our lives. And the reality is they don't need to be. If you truly understand where you're going and you see a vision, you'll get there. So only a few weeks later, it wasn't a training issue. It wasn't a competency issue. It wasn't a swimming issue. Well, Florence did the same thing. She got onto the banks of Catalina Island, jumped into the water. Yet before this, for weeks before that, she started visualizing and seeing where she was going to be going. And just like the weeks before, the fog rolled in, shotguns were going off, sharks were circling the boats, but she kept her focus. And she landed on dry land and swam 26 miles and set not only a women's record, but a men's record for accomplishing such an extraordinary swim. Now I look at an agent, I sit there and think, man, do agents really know where they're going? Have they gotten so clear on a transactional goal, or maybe it's an income goal? And have they really dialed into the importance of why it is that they want something like that? So there's three fundamental questions that I believe should drive every single agent. Number one, and hopefully you guys write these down, or you can pick up your phone and act like you're actually writing it down, but texting, it's all good, but something like that, right? But write this down. Number one, what do I want? Now you could add a little piece to that. Why do I want it? I have agents all the time come into my office and go, hey, you know, I want to sell 50 homes, 75 homes, 100 homes, whatever the number is. But I'm more interested in the question that's next, along with what do I want? Why do I want it? Why do you want it? So the challenge is that if you don't really know why you want something, and you're not emotionally connected, and you haven't woven or weaved emotion around the goal of what you want to triumph, you're never going to get it. Because your willpower will give out on you when times get tough. But when you have a strong enough reason as to you knowing why you want it, you'll get it. It always is the case. There's nothing that you can't achieve. But when you buy into complacency, scarcity, and you divert your focuses, and you talk yourself out of what it is you actually want, and you forget the reasons and the emotions that are behind it, you are just like everybody else out there, wandering through life and hoping that business happens, hoping that homes sell. And yet the reality is there is no strategy in hope. There is no strategy in hope. It's just hope, which is not necessarily bad, but it certainly is if you are the agent and you stand in front of a client and you say, I'm going to get this home sold, and then you divert a week or two later to, I hope it sells. I hope. Hope doesn't have a strategy. Hope doesn't have action. Hope doesn't have almost anything to it except hope. Wishful, blissful thinking. And yet, we will base the career of real estate, our career in real estate, on just hoping that it works out. And yet, when you know what you want, why you want it, then you can move to number two, which is where a lot of people get stuck, which is, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to get it? That's where a lot of people go, whoa, we're at dinner on Sunday evening. Ashley's boyfriend, very strange, his name is George, it's very odd. Really odd, just for the record, okay? But Ashley and his name, George, is sitting there having a conversation with Bella. And they're having a conversation of what she wants to do. Well, she wants to be this doctor, esthetician stuff, Botox, you know, doing all these, you know, maybe even surgeries and all. And then all of a sudden, Bella's like, yeah, man, that's what I want to do. Wouldn't that be so cool? And then all of a sudden, George and Ashley start explaining what you have to do to get that. And all of a sudden they say, well, yeah, you need to go to school, get your undergraduate, then you need to go to 2 more years of this, 4 more years of that. And Bella starts backpedaling. Well, I'm not doing that. I said, well, Bella, what else are you going to do during that time? Well, I don't know, but I'm not doing that. Because all of a sudden the focus came down to, what do you have to do to get it? And that is where so many of you in this room and agents everywhere lose sight of their dreams, their goals, and why they want them. And you would rather buy into what it takes to get it and discount and back away from all that has to be done to get it, versus focusing and keeping your eye on the prize, which is, what do I want and why do I want it? When you start realizing that you can have everything you want out of the business, but you have to pay a price. Basically, what's the price you have to pay? Now, there is certainly a question that you should ask, which is number 3, which I'll agree with you, is a good question. But the problem is that when we back away so quickly from the activity, really ask yourself, here's question number 3, is it worth it? So imagine this business. What do I want and why do I want it? Number 2, what do I have to do to get it? Oh, wait, hold on a second. Is it worth it? So many of us are fixated on the fear, the struggle, the battle, the heartache, the toughness, the rejection, the scarcity, the moments of disappointment, the tragedies of and challenges of transactions. And we begin to put all of our focus there instead of the focus on, how great will it be? How good could it be? How extraordinary could it be? And we sit there and we fixate on all the things we have to do to get it, and we talk ourselves out of it. Because what are you? Each one of you are extraordinary salespeople. And you sell yourself on either what is or what is not possible. What you are willing to do versus what you are willing not to do. And when you start looking at really the sacrifice of real estate, it's really just a few things. It's number 1, focusing on not the moments of challenge, but focusing on what it is that you get. It's focusing on the abundance of this business versus the scarcity of this business. And so much of what this business is about is what you choose to focus on. And if you will remind yourself that every single day you have a choice to focus on whatever it is that you want to focus on. Your choice, no one else's. But man, it is crazy to watch what people focus on. Well, I'm not going to do that. Oh, I'm not doing that. And I'm not doing that. And yet none of these things are immoral, unethical, wrong, illegal. It's just the fact that it'll be hard. It'll be tough. But yet it will literally garner the greatest capacities you have, the greatest abilities within yourself to bring forth, to achieve and to accomplish everything you want. So now ask yourself, why is it that you have spoken and talked yourself out of the idea of the accomplishments you truly want? Why is it that you have settled economically? Why have you settled with your health? Why have you settled and just given up in different relationships? Why? Because it's hard, because it's tough, because it's difficult. When is it that you backed away from challenge? I love what Justin said, man. What is it every single day that you could do that's hard, tough, difficult, challenging? And some people say, well, I don't want that. And yet in it, you will find your greatest self. In it, you will find what you're capable of. In it, in the fear, the challenge, the struggle, the disappointment, the yelling, the screaming, the hang-ups, the slam doors, all of it, you will find the greatest version of yourself. And yet, so many of us will back away from what's possible because we choose to focus on our fears, our disappointments, the challenges versus literally the glory, the beauty, the majesty of what you could have. And as much as I love as some of my dearest friends, Dave and Justin, I am here to be the first guy to tell you, there ain't nothing that special about it. There's nothing. But man, you will put these guys on pedestals, and some of you will be like, you can either be the critic or the champion, and you will look at it and go, wow, look how amazing. And I'll look at it and go, is it really that amazing? Because this is what I want you to think about. It is ordinary people doing ordinary things, but here's the beauty, consistently. And that's what makes them extraordinary. And when you start to realize that ordinary people doing ordinary things consistently, you start to realize that the group that they live in, the 1% of success in this business like they operate from, it makes them extraordinary because they do ordinary things extraordinarily consistently. And when you start to realize that, you start realizing it's not such an exclusive club. And although I love them literally like brothers and would do anything for them, the reality is that sometimes we will think that it's so beyond us that it's not. Because what is right in your reach is knowing what you want, why you want, what's the price you pay, and is it worth it? And if you'll do it and you'll go to work on it, all of a sudden you'll realize that a year later, 2 years later, 5 years later, as a decade later, you will be one of the ones that'll be up here telling people the very same stories, the very same skills, the very same things that they just shared with you, because all of it's the same. Now, they may take different focuses from listings to buyers and different sources of business, but in the end, it is the same. And although they are extraordinary, it's what makes them extraordinary is, again, their consistency. It's not anything that flashy, but it's the ability to conquer and to overcome the things that seem so difficult to you, to overcoming the rejection, the fear, the challenges, and persevering beyond them even when they're there. In closing, which is like 20 minutes from now, so don't lose time, just kidding. But in closing, you know, I look back over my lifetime, and there has been many times where I have not been properly, if I would say properly, focused on the right stuff. You are in a market where you can either act very defensively or you can act highly offensively. There is only one football team that has ever won in the NFL, the Super Bowl, where the defense actually outscored and outproduced the offense. It was the Baltimore Ravens. And it was almost 20-something years ago that it occurred. That the defense legitimately outscored the offense. Why you think about something and where's your mind and your mindset? When you focus on the scarcity of transactions, the scarcity of deals, the scarcity of even how much you make on a deal, and you start chasing scarcity, there is never abundance in scarcity. There's survival. But I have never met a single agent nor business person that has truly, absolutely conquered, achieved their goals, their dreams, that works from a place of scarcity. That does not mean don't be economically, fiscally responsible. What it means is that if you really want to achieve your dreams, it is not about how much can you save, it is about how much you can do. It is not about how much you can cut, It is about how much business can be done. And when you start recognizing that, you start to realize, wait a second here, where are my focuses? Are my focuses in on the right stuff? Because every single day you have a choice to choose what you choose to focus on. And the people that I'm watching, when I talk to Justin, how much are you up this year from last year? 30% increase. But do you know across the Wasatch Front, what is the decline of transactions? Do you know? 30% down. Huh? What's the difference? See, the conversations again, as an example with Justin, don't go like this. Well, George, you know, I mean, that 295. You know, I mean, I could go here and it'd be cheaper. I know that. See, the thing is that that's not where Justin focuses. He focuses on how much he can do, lives that he can impact, families that he can help, differences that he can make, and business just keeps coming. Because his focuses are in the right space. Again, if you choose to focus in this business today on scarcity and survival, I can promise you, you will never be that person that we look at and go, look at how much they saved. No, you'll be like, never that person, because no one will be excited about that. They will go, how much they saved. Just like them. Not one of them were up here telling you how much they saved. They were here telling you how much they've done, how much they've achieved, how much they've accomplished, the things that have made the difference so that they can. And when you get your focus right, you will become abundant. And this universe, this world, your vibration, your frequency to this world will draw everything to you. Every call you make will be better because your focus is on how can I help you, not how much you're going to ask me to discount. Your focus will be how many appointments can I set versus how many people will tell me no. Your focus will be how much time do I get to prospect versus, well, be at least 2 hours in doing this. It's a whole different mindset when you come from a place of abundance. And if you walk through life constantly scared and fearful, then the reality is this world will never bring you the abundance that's necessary. And yet if you will be open, bright, loving, blissful, joyful, happy, abundant, it's crazy what can come your way. So much bliss, so much abundance, so much money, so much success. But man, when you start focusing in your entirety in regards to how much can you either save, sacrifice, then you will probably be that person that they'll look at and go, well, they survived, but you never became the person you were ultimately capable of being. I am always amazed when I watch people who become so abundant. It's almost like you said, go, wait, what's wrong? I mean, really, I look at guys like Brandon and Alicia there, I sit there and go, my goodness, look at the amount of deals that they're doing and the volume of transactions and the magnitude of deals that they're doing. I look at people like when I met them for the first time, they're making $100 grand a year. I look at someone like Brian Noel, who I know have a deal under contract for $5.4 million. Is that right? Am I right on that? Somewhere in there? Yeah. I look at people who have somehow figured out how to be abundant, even when the market doesn't seem to be abundant. They choose to be abundant. They maximize abundance. They speak about abundance. They talk about abundance. They act abundant. And then all of a sudden, more of it comes to them. The fact is that not one of you in here can't have any of that. So just know that every single thing you do matters. Every action you take matters. Every conversation you have matters. But more importantly, who you show up as is the most important thing I could advocate to you today. Who are you showing up as? What is the frequency? What is the vibration of your life? What is the aura? What is the energy? What is the flow of your life? Are you the person when people show up and go, man, there they are, we're so excited they're here? Or are you the person who, oh gosh, hold on, I don't know. Is your life a voice of warning? Or is it a voice of abundance and greatness and possibility? And it's not that you need to do everything for everybody. But what needs to happen is that you need to wake up and check the balances of your mindset, your belief systems, your energy, your attitude, your approach to this business, and see what's possible for you. Because I really do believe this, that there's not one part of this business that not one of you can accomplish. If you want it, you can have it, every one of you. And yet I watch people battle constantly the resistance of what is necessary. And then every day they talk about what they really want, but never actually get it. What if you were the person who was Babe Ruth, who pointed out to center field with his bat and then swung the bat and put it out there? What if you were the Babe Ruth of real estate? What if you saw so much abundance, possibility, called your shot and then went for it and stopped talking yourself into all the things that have to be done to get it, but you focused on what you wanted versus what you had to do to get it, and you just did it, and you did it with light and abundance and joy and happiness? What would happen? What would happen? You'd succeed, would you not? Yes or yes? Yes. You'd have all of it, every piece and part of it that you would want. So here's my challenge to you. Don't give up. Believe in yourself. Believe in what you're capable of. Trust the journey. Trust yourself. Trust the outcome. And truly go to work as if it is absolutely going to happen, because it can. Because people like Justin, people like Dave, people like others in this room have proven to you what's possible. And it's possible for you. That I am certain of. And if you believe it, it is a good chance it's going to happen because of the way in which you choose to approach your life. But some of you have gotten into habits of running, gotten into habits of moving away from the hard moments, and you've gotten to a point where you sit back and go, I'll just see what happens. And I'm going to challenge you to go out and see what happens based on the fact of what you do, what you accomplish, and what you persevere through. And before I close, I just want to wish Luz a happy birthday, by the way, right here. So happy birthday. Thank you for playing for us. And guys, have an extraordinary rest of the month. Remember, start strong, finish strong. Do your best. Live in a space of abundance. Focus on the right stuff and have an extraordinary life along with a business. Because again, the greatest achievements in the world with no fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So go for it. Have an extraordinary day, week, and let's have a great month, guys. Thank you so much.